Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the County. Today I am sitting with Dan Haasken, the GIS coordinator, and Randy Quale, Aiken County surveyor. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thanks, Mark. You bet.
Let's just start right away with GIS. What does that stand for, Dan? And what is it?
Well, it's an acronym for Geographic Information Systems. The dictionary definition of GIS is a system of computer hardware, software, data, and personnel organized to collect, manipulate, edit, analyze, and present information that is tied to a spatial location.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things like geo-fencing and stuff that I hear. Is that what we're talking about here?
Sure, can be.
Nice, it can be. I love it. So from a county perspective, what do we use it for?
Estimates are that about 80% of all data captured and collected in the world is tied to a spatial location. So at the county level, everything, just about every office in here in this complex collects data on a daily basis, and about 80% of it's tied to a spatial location or a geographic location that's, on the earth. So with that said, there's a lot of data that can be brought into our GIS and then presented on a map, hard copy, digital, now everything's basically on the web, so that's usually where it's being presented.
Sure.
GIS here got its start back in 95.
Okay, so it's been around for a little while.
Yep.
And
started in the land department. There was a real application for GIS with forestry. And so the land department wanted to get all of their assets mapped. And so it kind of started with the forest inventory. That was kind of the first data layer that the county really had.
Okay, so they could use that to understand where the forests were, which ones maybe were ripe for logging or whatever it is.
Exactly, because the real power of GIS isn't what you see on a map. It's really the background. What's tied to that data? What's the database look like?
Yeah.
So it's not just the feature on the map, it's the data behind that feature. So each forest stand would tell you there's over 100 attributes in that forest database. It tells you things like the age of that forest, the type of forest, the type of trees that are in that stand, and various other metrics that the land department or the foresters use to determine how to manage the forest properly. And
it sounds like you had mentioned that there's many different departments that utilize GIS. I'm sure you have a huge department, a GIS coordinator. You probably have 15, 20 people underneath you running GIS and all of that. How many people are in your department?
You're looking at them.
That's what I figured. So you're doing exactly the responsible government thing of having as little of people as possible to get the job done.
Yes.
And from a resident perspective, what are they interested in using the GIS for?
Well,
our system.
Probably the biggest use would be the map that we have out online. The interactive map where people can go both internally and externally to get all kinds of, we don't have all of our data layers on that map, but we have dozens of them. And the biggest one is the parcel data.
That's the most used, I think, probably by the residents, right?
Yeah, people are looking for their property, which of course is tied to all of our database, the AS400 tax database information. So, ownership, legal description, values, assessed values, taxes.
So if somebody's looking to build on their land, they would go there to understand different things like where they can build on that land. Maybe wetland, is that all in the residence things too?
Absolutely. And wetlands, topography, zoning classifications. I mean, the list is pretty much endless.
It's an incredible thing that, we can, from somewhere, again, I know nothing about it, but here it is, it can map you on it. All we talk about is geo something, and it can map you to exactly where that is. Your car can follow the GPS and all of that good stuff. But how does a resident know what we have in our system is accurate?
That's the thing about GIS. I mean, it's not... GIS data isn't, like a property survey as far as accuracy goes, spatial accuracy. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. One of the reasons is when we mapped all this data, we didn't have a good base layer, which would be the public land survey system section townships.
Yep.
We didn't have a good, accurate layer of that 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And very few counties did. So everyone, the state, all the counties were kind of in the same boat at that time when they were creating their GIS data. It was only as accurate as the information that they had at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, over the years, we've gotten, better information in the form of section corners to make our data more accurate, particularly the parcel data, the property lines that people are seeing.
Is that where Randy comes in? We give him credit for
absolutely.
For improving on the data systems and things like that.
Yeah.
So Randy, from a surveying perspective, how do you affect the GIS? Do you when you go out and survey, and you mentioned the corners thing? Tell me more about that. What is that all about?
Well, the section corners are basically the base for all property descriptions within the county that uses the public land survey system that was developed back in the 1800s. Basically, everything after the original 13 colonies is using the public land survey system. And it's a system of grids. They would run controlling lines, and then they would work, make big grids, big squares, and then they would break those down individually. And what they did is then they ran 1 mile by 1 mile sections, and they set 8 corners around those sections, or at the edges of lakes and where they intersected major rivers and things like that. The original government surveys for Aiken County were done about 1850s, 1860s. Because of the remote nature of a lot of Aiken County, a lot of the corners maybe haven't even been visited since those times. Public lands, there isn't a big need for it, things like that. So my responsibility is to follow in the footsteps of those before me and try to get those corners back in the ground and certified in the correct location. With that, then we can bring those coordinates into the map and provide more accurate locations for section lines, which then develop the locations for the individual property lines.
Yeah, that makes sense. That from 1860 to now, there's quite a lot of advancement, and you guys continue to work on advancing that and doing that. That's pretty cool that we don't just go, all right, it's whatever it is. We have that drive to want to make sure that it's the most accurate and the most updated that it can be. Right. I compliment you guys in your worlds of expertise for doing things like that, because when I go out and talk to the regular residents that might have used the GIS system, or I get compliments on that, on how good that system is and how user friendly it is for them. I know that the cities all use that too, right? I always see the city administrator over in Aiken when I'm visiting with her. She's got that up and she's looking at that, and so the cities and the residents rely on you as the GIS coordinator to have that up and running and accurate. Everybody in the county uses that. So
right.
One thing though is the accuracy does depend on the information that we have in-house. We don't want to show big empty areas like blocks where we don't have information. We still want to show and give a graphic representation to the folks that live in those areas, but it may not be as highly accurate as some of the other areas.
Yeah, sure. It's a huge county.
It is.
It's not easy work to go and corner those things off.
A lot of value is placed on section corners and property boundary lines, so we need to make sure that we do it correctly, and it's not something you can just do quick a lot of times.
Yeah, that's another thing that I hear too out in the areas is that whenever they're dealing with, going to give you a plug, I hear about when they're dealing with the county surveyor, that they do get accurate information and quickly and things like that from you and your team of probably 40 or 50 people that you have on your staff as well.
Yeah, about 3 of us.
About 3, nice. Yeah. He's tripled you on employees, so there you go. But yeah, so 3 to all of the area that we're talking about in Aiken County and making sure that you're doing that. Yeah. But I get so many compliments from people that are out there that I want to make sure that these podcasts are intended to talk about our programs, talk about our different things that we have available, and then with out question highlighting our staff, because our staff is hugely talented people like yourselves getting that done. I wouldn't have a clue in 2 seconds how to sit in your chair and do what you do. I would not know how to do that and couldn't do that. And it amazes me when I ask a question, and I've always done that internally. Hey Dan, can you show me this? And it comes back, well, here, click this, and it's right there for you. So the tool is amazing, and how you're building it is amazing too. So residents, if you're listening out there, you have any interest in looking at the GIS for any reason, please do that, and you can contact these guys right here at the office here if you have questions or things like that.
Absolutely.
Let's switch it a little bit to you guys. I always like to highlight you guys. Dan, you've been doing this for 10 minutes? Or?
Well, I've been with the county for 27 years.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So, previous to that, I had some other roles in GIS in the private sector. Yeah, I mean, it's come a long way. GIS has since those days. It's interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah. Have you been working directly in GIS here at the county for that long?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been the GIS coordinator since '97.
County's pretty lucky for that.
Well,
to have the same person in that spot. And
yeah, I think it's good.
And how about you, Randy? How long have you been with the county itself?
I've been with the county for almost 8 years now, but I've been serving since '92, so about 33 years.
So you had your expertise somewhere else and then decided what a great place to be, Aiken County.
I'm
and the Aiken
I'm a
County
hometown
survey.
guy. I was born and raised in Aiken, and
Nice.
and I worked in the area for a small surveying firm, but then moved on and went to a bigger one just outside of the area. And when this opportunity came up, I came back.
Thanks for coming back. We love people. Are you originally from this area?
No, I'm a transplant from the Twin Cities.
I am myself, so I understand how that means, but I'm sure you've been here for the time period that you've worked here too, so we won't call you a transplant anymore.
Okay.
I don't
right.
anyway. Some of the traditional localists will still call you an outsider even after 27 years, so
Yes.
that is the way it works though in the
It
area,
is.
and that's a good thing. Anything that I'm missing, anything you guys want to talk about that I didn't give you the opportunity to touch on?
I guess one question that I get a lot is if I do boundary surveys for private properties. And the short answer is no. We do have a number of private surveyors that work in the area, and it is not my role to take work away from those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I do the section corners. That's my statutory requirement. And I also will help other county departments with surveying questions and the general public. I can answer general questions and give opinions, things like that.
Yeah.
But as far as, if we're going to give you a price to come out and mark your boundaries, we don't do that kind of thing.
That's important that we're taking care of the businesses that are here and not taking business away from them. But I'm sure who's who if somebody would contact you and say, who do I call to have this surveyed?
Yep, we've got a list of providers, and we can take a look in the area to see if anybody's worked in there, and there may be a shortcut for you to find the right guy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. I really appreciate it. And again, I'm amazed by the tool itself, and someday I'll learn how to use it past opening it up, but that's the way that works. See you again soon. You're listening to Coffee with the County.